Let's face it, friend, your broker sucks. Okay, maybe they don't quite suck, but you are strongly considering a change, but not quite sure exactly where to start. Well, guess what? You are in the right place because I was just like you. And after 6 years at a brokerage that I absolutely loved, I have made the decision to transfer my license to a new brokerage. And I'm going to share with you the 12 steps that I went through to make this transition. So here's what I know. We are at the time of year where you should be evaluating, right? You should be looking at how your year has gone with real estate. You should be looking at, things that you want to continue with your business, things that you want to discontinue. It's just good practice, right? Not to just be in hustle mode all the time, but to actually take some time to step away from the business to reflect and see like what's going to be a good fit. And it's very natural, right? When you see December, November, people making shifts to decide if the brokerage they are at is a good fit for them. And although I was at my previous brokerage for 6 years, this is a question. This is like something that I will put myself through every year to see if it's still a good fit, right? Because something that may have worked for you in years 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever, depending on where you are in business, where you want to go, if things have changed with the leadership or whatever, you just might decide that you want to make a shift, and that is a-okay. So that's why I wanted to do this podcast, and I've done other videos and podcasts in the past where I've given you just feedback on how to determine if a broker is a good fit and all that stuff. But like, I am fresh. Like when I say I just switched, I'm talking like before I hit record, I was reaching out to the MLS board to make sure that they have my transfer over before I put in a new listing today. So while this is fresh, I wanted to, I looked at my process and I came up with 12 steps that you need to go through before, like I'm going to talk about things that you should go through before you actually make the change so that you're not changing abruptly or prematurely, all the way up into just the steps of things that I had to do and am doing as I have made the shift. So the very first thing that I always start with, like I'm your real estate bestie. So if you know me, I'm always like, just don't be just moving around willy-nilly and making any decisions just because you're just not feeling it in the moment, but really determine what is the purpose of this, right? Even if you're in real estate, it got to be about more than selling houses and earning commission. You have to have a deeper why, because we all know that the business is, it can be hard. And if your why is only about money, then you're not going to stay in it. And the same thing with why you want to switch brokerages. And I want to bring this up because I know that my first year in real estate, like I've been with the other one 6 years, but my first year in real estate, I actually transferred brokerages 4 times. And I had good reasons for every time. And I will see if I can link the video of why I explained, I did it so long ago, of why I went to different brokerages. But that's number one. You're not married to anybody. But I do think that I moved around a lot initially because I didn't have a clear understanding of what the broker was supposed to provide me as the agent, which is natural because a lot of us get into real estate and this is your first kind of stab at entrepreneurship, but it's kind of like you're an entrepreneur, but you got to be under this broker situation. So like, what are they really supposed to be giving me? And we can confuse it, right? We can confuse the fact that we're running our own business with the fact of actually we're independent contractors, thinking that a broker is more like a boss and more like, somebody who's supposed to be feeding us stuff, when that's really not the way most brokerages are designed. So that's why I want to start with your why. Because if you are feeling like the broker should be more hands-on in your business, and then you leave the brokerage that you're with feeling like you're missing out on something, you might just be bouncing all over the place before you finally kind of realize like, oh, this is like common in industry. So when I say your why, I think about like there are some brokerages that are known for how they train new agents, right? So if you are at a brokerage and a lot of that baseline training, you just don't feel like the brokerage has that infrastructure in place, maybe that might be your why. Perhaps you are a person who, like having an in-person office, you're paying desk fees and things like that for things that you're not using. So you may want to consider somewhere that has more virtual options, right? So that you are not beholden to being in one place. Maybe it's about who you're around, right? I think about one of my good friends. She was actually with a brokerage that I was with for 6 years. We were a cloud-based brokerage, and she actually flipped and went to a more boutique style brokerage that was local to our market for a few reasons. But one of her main things was like, I just feel so spread apart. Even though she was a high producing agent, right? She's high producing, she was solo and was very, very independent, but she just knew that she was the type of person that thrived from that office environment, that competitive edge. So that was her why of switching from the cloud-based model back into a boutique. So I want you to get really clear on what's not working where you are so that you can be very clear on where you're going, that they offer that. Because again, we don't want to be just willy-nilly transferring back and forth, because there is a monetary, for most brokerages, when you make switches and you start, changing your marketing things, like it is an investment. And we don't want to do that prematurely if we haven't researched, number one, what do we need? What are you needing in this next part of your business, right? And who's going to provide that? And then also, don't just go off of like what your current brokerage doesn't have, but I also want you to look at what are some things that are in place at your current brokerage that you want to make sure if I go somewhere else, these things are in place. So I think about myself. I went from one cloud-based brokerage to another cloud-based brokerage. That was important to me, right? It was important to me that I had opportunities to collaborate with agents all over the country, i.e. for Real Estate Bestie. So, there were things that I really loved about my previous brokerage that if the current brokerage that I chose, if it didn't have it, then it would have been off the table, right? So figure out like, what do you need and what do you currently have that you want to go? So that's number one, determine your why. Then number two, I do want to bring this up even before I go to number two. If the why you're leaving is only because of money, because of your splits and things like that, because I've heard that before, like don't be afraid to reach out to your current broker, your current team leader, because they may be willing to renegotiate your split, right? What I would hate for you to do is be like, oh, I'm at a place I absolutely love, but I want to be able to bring home more of my money. You never know. They may be willing to renegotiate your split. So, you gotta put your big girl undies on and go ahead and be willing to have that conversation, because again, you might be able to just stay exactly where you are if it's only about money. Okay, now, after you figure out your why, number two is researching who has what you want, okay? And the best form of that, like there's so much research that you can do on the internet. Like I feel like there are YouTube videos about almost every-ish brokerage, especially the bigger brokerages, right? But what I found to be the best resource is talking to agents that are actually in that brokerage, and agents, more importantly, agents that are in that brokerage producing, right? Because I don't care if you're a Keller, I don't care if you're EXP, I don't care if you're a Real, I don't care if you're at, the booming, swanky boutique brokerage that's going on in the city. There's always going to be disgruntled agents there because, again, they may not have a good idea of what the broker responsibility is. So I would want you to be in contact with agents who are actually in production doing business to get their honest feedback about the brokerage and ask those specific questions as it relates to your why. If culture is a big thing, if you want to know how you're getting paid at the table, if you want to know like what type of support do they have after you're no longer new, like figure out exactly what your questions are. And I feel like your best people to get that research from would be the ones who are actually in the brokerage, okay? So then after you are talking to the active agents in the brokerage, step number three, like you probably are going to find a couple that you are really interested in. I want you to review their ICA, and that is their independent contractor agreement. You want to familiarize yourself with just like what is the structure of the brokerage, what is the contractor agreement. Most of the brokerages will make their agreements available to you. And if they don't, like if they're like, no, you can't see it until you're ready to sign, that would give me a little bit of pause. But you want to review that independent contractor agreement. So again, you can just get clarity. And by this time, it's just like our clients, right? You know how our clients are, you start with this process of elimination with the houses, like, okay, you know, how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, like you should be doing some process of elimination and down to maybe 1 to 2 at this point. But I want you to see like in writing what it looks like to join them, what it looks like to leave them, what their marketing guidelines are. You know, some brokerages have different stances on exactly how you can market yourself. So you also want to make sure that that makes sense for you after you review that. Then, okay, step number 4, I want you to pray about it. Like, I don't want you, now this prayer is not a tactic to hold off on the decision and never make the change. And I'm going to be honest, like when you are at a brokerage, I was just at eXp Realty for 6 years. And I also want to say this, I didn't have anything against eXp, just as my business is developing. You know, I was open to see if there was something that would be a better fit. And ultimately, I have decided that there is. But I'm going to be honest, like, at one point, I was like, I just don't feel like making a change. Like, it's a lot of stuff to change after 6 years of being somewhere where I know and where I'm comfortable, you know, all of these things. After I prayed about it, and once it was clear to me, like, hey, this is the direction where I'm being called to go, then I just need to make a decision, right? Because sometimes we can use prayer as a stall tactic halfway because we're lazy and we don't want to make the change. But when you know what you want to do, like, go ahead and put the ball in motion. And I was thoughtful about gathering my information, but after I gathered my information, like it was just logistically, like the ball started rolling for me to move on to the new brokerage. Okay, so after you do that, you want to complete the ICA, the independent contractor agreement, for the said new brokerage, okay? And what I like the brokerage that I'm with now, I left eXp to go to Real. This is not a video, by the way, or a podcast about why you should leave eXp and go to Real. If you want me to just share my thoughts in a separate video, I'm happy to do that. Just leave a comment, but I'm just really talking about the process of what you need to do to transfer, because I know a lot of y'all are thinking about transferring. But I did the independent contractor agreement, and in the agreement, I got to like date it out for about a week or two so that I could get all of my ducks in a row. But that was a part that I got to get done ahead of time, that independent contractor agreement. Okay, so you fill out your independent contractor agreement, you know, see if there is a fee. You should have known that prior to, because remember we reviewed this earlier, but get your fee paid to the new brokerage if you need to do that. Okay. So then after you do that, this is what you want to do before you make any notices to the brokerage that you're with. You want to extract any information that you need to take with you, okay? So like any transactions that you have going on in your transaction management system, you want to make sure that you're taking those things out or that you're downloading them. So not like deleting the transactions, right? Because technically they were with the broker you were with when you got the transactions, but you want to make sure in case you are locked out of the system, okay? And we'll get to that in a second. You just want to make sure that you have all of the contract addenda, like anything that you need. And also if you are using your broker CRM, your broker's client relationship manager, you also want to extract anything that you need out of there, like download your CSV files so that again, if for whatever reason you are no longer able to access your email, your systems, things like that, that you will be able to have all of your client records and information. This is a huge one. And this is why if you coach with me, you know that I am a big advocate of having your own email address, your own CRM, so that in the event you want to make a shift, because guess what? You know, at some point you might want to make a shift. You might want to open up your own brokerage. You are not like SOL without all of your client information. So you want to extract your stuff. Okay. Then I want you to get clear. This is where it might be a little dicey, and this should happen a little bit earlier, but get clear on what happens with anybody you're under contract with, any of your listings. Like find out, now don't get mad, because technically the broker who was your broker when you went into an agreement with these folks, they're in an agreement with the broker, and the broker does not have to release it. But get clear on what happens. This is also where it is really good to have some real estate besties, maybe people who have made the transition, so that they can kind of prep you on what to expect when you are transitioning. But I want you to go back and review your original independent contractor agreement with the brokerage you're leaving, so that you can see, okay, what did I agree to in writing as it relates to all of my pending things, right? All of my buyer agreements, all of my listings and things like that, okay? All right, so once you have all of that, once you have your ducks in a row, my suggestion is that you're ready to move over. Reach out to who holds your license, who issues your license, because that is where you transfer sponsorship. Now, I want to be a little bit easy here because I know that it may look different from one state to another. I am in the state of Texas, so we are licensed by TREC, right? The Texas Real Estate Commission. So for me, I reached out to the Real Estate Commission to transfer my license over before I notified the broker. Now, some of y'all might be like, oh, is that shady? Well, I'm gonna tell you why. It's not shady, in my opinion. And I want you to I want you to use your own discernment on your relationship with your broker. I left a big box company, right? So I wasn't like in the office side by side, elbow to elbow, shoulder to shoulder with my broker every single day. So even though I did feel valued at my company, I was in a bigger company, right? So I don't personal feelings were not hurt by me leaving. It's a part of business, right? But the reason that I like to transfer, because before I transferred years ago, alerted the broker ahead of time, like, hey, just want to tell you, thank you so much. I'm going to be leaving the company. Like immediately the broker pounced, and not in a bad way, really trying to keep me at the brokerage. And it just confused me, right? It confused me. Like I was very solid on my decision, and I knew that I was doing the right thing. At that time, I was leaving the broker to join a team with another broker because I knew that I needed that level of support, and I meshed way better with this team than any team in the brokerage. But I was so confused. Like the broker planted so many seeds of doubt in my head that I almost like second guessed my decision. But then I ended up going through with it. But when you have already like changed everything, it just kind of is what it is. So like once you are clear on what's going to make the most sense for you, I'm going to encourage you to reach out to your commission and make the change. And then immediately after making the change, I reached out to my broker in charge, right? I reached out and it's a little different for me because I technically am a broker, so I was an associate broker. But, I have done things before where I have left a team. I've done things before, like I said, where I have left brokerages. Like you still want to leave on good terms because guess what? This world is small. We know, like, I don't know if you're aware, but there's a statistic that says like 95% of the business is done by like 5% of the agents. So there may be very well, again, that you may have business with either the broker or one of the broker's agents. Like I always want to leave on good terms. Not like, and like, let's be real. Like if you're watching this, like, I don't know, but if you are a Christian, we have a responsibility to look like Jesus, even in these type of scenarios. So I do want to leave on good terms. So whether that's making a phone call, whether that is, sending an email. So like I said, like in my brokerage, I sent an email because it's kind of a bigger box brokerage. We have several brokers on charge. I only kind of sort of had a relationship with one broker, and I did send her a personal message, right? Just to say thank you for everything, and exited stage left. But I make the notification to the broker after I've notified commission and after I've gotten all my things out. And this is why, because some brokers are petty. I haven't had it happen to me, but I know so many stories that the brokers were, I'm just going to say it, kind of butthurt that you make a decision that makes the most sense for your business, even if you do it in the most respectful manner, and they have, cut off and play games. So you want to make sure that you have all of your ducks in the row, because we cannot control how someone else responds to the news of you transferring your membership or your sponsorship. So yeah, you just want to make sure you have everything together by the time you notify them. After you do that, after you notify your broker, and this is all happening like pretty quickly. After you notify your broker, you do the licensing, you pay any fees, you then want to notify your MLS board. If you are a member of an MLS board, you definitely want to be clear on switching over your licensing as it relates to the MLS board. Don't think that because you went to the licensing board that your MLS board knows. You have to, in a lot of instances, you have to notify them separately. Just like when I got licensed for real estate, I then had to join a board. You want to give your board all of the new information, okay? Then you want to follow up with that transaction department at your previous brokerage if you have things that are pending, if you have listings, just so you know and have clarity on what happens, right? Will you all release those listings to my new brokerage? You know, do they need to stay with you until they close out? You need to figure out, is there any paperwork or addenda that you need to have your client sign as it relates to you switching over? Here's another thing. If you have new construction, there are some builders that will only still pay the broker that they went under contract with. So you just have to be clear on like what is still there lingering so that you can stay in contact with everything, okay? All right, then it's time for you to just start changing your marketing material. I'm gonna encourage you, like any of your forward-facing stuff, like any required, the required disclosures that you have to have, like on your social media handles and things like that, go ahead and get that switched out immediately because people are petty. You don't want anyone to catch you slipping. So just block a couple days. Like if you know you're going to make this change, block a couple days so that you can be administrative and making sure that you're getting all of these things moved over. And yes, I will tell you, it feels like a little bit of a headache when you are in it. But, you know, again, you've already prayed about it. You already have your why. You already have your grounding. You know that you are going somewhere that is going to be a better fit for you. So then, you know, you just go ahead and do it. So after you do all of those things like that, now it's time for you to get the ball rolling on how you're going to switch out your marketing material, okay? Because now that, like, for instance, I am no longer with eXp Realty. So, like, that means that, you know, I have to budget. Even in my thought process for this, like, what does it look like for me to change all of my signs over and order new business cards and, you know, all of the marketing materials, your buyer representation agreements, like all of the templates that you have. I'm thinking about like your consultations, your listing presentations, like all of those things. You're going to need to give yourself time to start switching that over. Now, here is like a ninja tip. Y'all know I am the queen of leverage. I actually have a podcast and a video I'm going to link here so that you will know how important leverage is. Like I literally like saved myself so much time because I sent all of the new marketing material and requirements over to my VA. I told them, hey, anything that scour everything you've ever created for me, anything that has my previous brokerage, I need you to change it and update it to my new brokerage, give me new Facebook banners, all that stuff, and they are on it, right? So as opposed to me trying to figure it out, I think I pay my VA something like $6 an hour. Like they're gonna have it all done for me. It's probably gonna cost me $50 when it's all said and done. But if it would have cost me my time, I would have been so frustrated. So start transferring over all of that marketing material. And then finally, now I will tell you that I have a love-hate relationship with these announcements. It's so weird to me, like when we switch brokerages, people are like, congratulations. I'm like, girl, all I did was move my license from one place to another. But I do think that it is a good idea just to put it out there that you have made a switch, you've made a transition. You never know, there might be agents who are curious about joining you in the new space that you're in. But you know, it's like a new thing, right? So definitely however you want to announce, like, I don't know, I'm pretty sure I'm not gonna do like a slow motion Louboutin video. Y'all know I'm not about that, but I will like do a post with myself and my team just to say the Real Estate Besties have moved to Real Realty or to Real Broker. Look, I gotta figure out the name of where I'm at. But y'all see what I'm saying? Like now you can announce it after you get all of your ducks in a row. And this, like, I'm laying it out for you, but it can feel a little fast and furious. So I hope that that was helpful for you as you consider how to shift over to a new broker. And listen, you know, you might get to step 1 and 2 and figure out, you know what, I'm actually pretty good where I'm at. And that is a-okay. I just know that there are a lot of agents, especially as we enter Q4, that think to themselves, do I want to do something different? And you know what? Like, do it scared. Don't be afraid to do something different. And this is like, literally, this is my thought process, is if for whatever reason I'm not happy where I'm going, I think I'm going to be happy, but like, there's nothing to say I can't go back where I was, right? And that's why you leave right? You leave on good terms so that if you want to shift back, you can shift back. But I just wanted to give you all some tools because it is fresh for me. So I hope this was helpful. Go ahead and like the video, give us a comment. And again, like I said, if you want me to do a more in-depth video or podcast about like why I went with one company more than the other, then I'm happy to do that. I will say this though, I do like cloud-based brokerages for more experienced agents, unless you are on a team. And if you want me to talk about that, I will talk about that too. But yeah, that's just where I'm at with it. So hope this was helpful, besties. I will talk to you later and have a wonderful day. Bye. If you enjoyed this episode and you have a real life bestie that you think it would resonate with, y'all, do me a favor. Go ahead and hit that share button, because you know what? We are better together. Make sure you share the podcast, and I appreciate your reviews. I appreciate you giving me 5 stars more than you know. I'll talk to you next week.